Um, I just want to discuss real quickly why I am on YouTube instead of on Zoom like the assignment intended. And it's because my laptop is having some camera issues. I don't know why it wants to mess up now, but I just want to say this is why I'm on here, and I hope this will take off any points. These 30 seconds will not count, obviously. So, hello, my name is Jessica Sanchez, and in this reflection, I'll be sharing how I plan to integrate diversity, advocacy, and social justice into my social worker practice and how I see this course and it has shaped me into a different perspective on how I view multicultural practices. And these has helped multiple self-awareness of mine to develop. And I feel like honestly you can already know so much already about diversity, advocacy, and social justice already. And I felt like I knew so much coming into here. Um, However, I felt like you can learn so much just by learning. And that sounds like an obvious answer, of course. However, I thought it was an obvious thing too. But when I started doing this class and as I'm continuing all my courses through GCU, it's hitting to me how much I did not know about social work or about diversities and multiple stories. And I had the honor, and I've been able to read books, I've been able to watch movies, TV shows assigned to me or for me to look for to understand differences about others. And along the way, I'll connect these ideas to the real world issues as examples I've seen in like movies or TV shows because I think stories can often capture human struggles in the ways research alone just cannot. And they remind us how real people behind the theories we study in class. And in my future practice, I see diversity, advocacy, and social justice in a inseparable from the role of a social worker. And excuse me, diversity isn't just about knowledge differences or knowing just anything. By acknowledging differences, it's about embracing them, about learning from them, and making sure that our services as social workers are culturally responsive to our clients. And one thing that stood out to me was from a popular culture is the movie The Hate You Give. And I'm not sure if you heard of it, but it is a movie that I was truly nervous to watch. And I knew what it was about, but I I truly get upset when I think about the world and how people want to separate each other just by our color. And in the main character, this star, she is navigating her life between the black community and her mostly white school. And the tension really highlights how people often feel like they are in two different worlds, and how important it is for professionals to validate those experiences rather than push them aside. And if I was Star's social worker, I would need to create a space where she can express all parts of her identity without judgment. And I feel like at that school, she was not embracing who she was. She was being ashamed. She was being shamed for it. And I just feel like there's so much people can do just to help people like Star. And advocacy also plays in a big role in this as a strong example in the Netflix series When They See Us, which also tells a story about how Central Park 5, these young men were wrongfully convicted. And what struck me was not only was it a personal pain, but it was the failures of the systems that should have protected them. Watching the story, it emphasizes how Essentials advocacy is not just helping clients individually, but by pushing them against the perspective of like injustice. Even in shows like everyone knows Grey's Anatomy, there are storylines about undocumented immigrants avoiding medical care out of fear of being deported. And it feels like that situation alone, it's and currently is such a big deal right now, and everyone watches it and sees it as entertainment or see it as we're one country, when truly everybody should be a family within each other. We should be helping each other. And I feel like that deportation is such a hateful thing in this world. It's one of them. There's so many currently going on, but that is just unfortunately one of the many. And then that is a reminder of advocacy can be as practical as ensuring language accessibility services, or as a broad standing up for healthcare equality. Social justice to me means constantly asking who is being left out and what can I do to make sure everyone feels included. And this course has a huge impact on how I understand multicultural practices. At first, I I thought multicultural practices was mostly about respect and avoiding stereotypes. Now I see it's much deeper than that. It's recognizing systematic inequalities and understanding the privilege and the opposition and committing to the ongoing process of learning. One example that connects to the, excuse me, I'm so sorry. But one example to this is the movie Crash, and it is a dramatic film, and it shows how people racially can be different racially and culturally. Backgrounds can understand each other, sometimes in such a painful way. It also shows how biases and injustice shows up even when people don't recognize it in themselves. This really made me think about how, as a social worker, I'll need to constantly reflect on my own assumptions and not just the ones I think I know because I have good intentions. I will automatically be free of bias. Another Another example is Freedom Writers. That film shows a teacher working with students from very diverse and often different backgrounds. What stood out to me was how the teacher realized how different things were for her students and how she expected the students to change who they were to fit her. And that's exactly what multicultural practice is. It's not forcing the client into a mold, but it's adjusting to how we practice so it truly meets their needs instead of ours. Because as teachers, social workers, anything that has to do with clients, you have to put themselves first. You can't show your true bias, or you can't show what you stand for, because you're there for them. You're there to protect them. And this course has shown me that multicultural practice isn't something you master and then you move on from. It's a lifelong experience. It requires humility, reflection, and willingness to keep learning from the people you serve, and not just what you learned when you were young. And growth, my self awareness has grown a lot, in my opinion, throughout this course. I've started to look more closely how my cultural background is more values and life experience has shaped me the way I see the world. And that's important because I feel like if I'm not aware of it, I will unintentionally let my biases and clients know or make assumptions that interfere of how I support them. And I think about the movie Remember the Titans. That film shows how people's backgrounds and biases influence their actions, but it's not also shows how awareness and relationships are building. It can also lead to growth and self-change. And that made me reflect on how my self-awareness isn't just about identifying clients, but it's also about how I choose to grow and do once I recognize them. And this, I'm going to mention another series. Um, it has really hit me truly when I was watching it, was The Maid. And the main character is a young mother who is struggling with poverty, domestic violence, navigating social services, and watching her experience made me aware of how easy it can be for professionals to judge a client without fully understanding the systemic barriers that they face. That made me reflect on how I approach the real life. Am I too quick to assume things? Do I need to move slower so I try to understand the bigger picture? And this course really made me recognize it, and it's self-awareness, and it's okay being with not knowing everything. And I do understand the client's life. I don't have to understand the client's life, but they are my role is to listen to them and support them and walk alongside them along the way. And I hope that if I ever came across the young mother and maid, that I will be able to help her and understand where she's coming from, because people look over young mothers who are struggling too easily. There are too many of them, and young fathers. There's so many of them that people look past and just doesn't sit and listen to them. But I do. There was a scene where a social worker did stop or did listen to her, kind of gave it to her straight, but she also helped her find a job that could help her. She was doing as much as she could, and that was truly, it was heartwarming to see, even though she was struggling, and it was hard to watch that somebody was out there at least helping her. And I don't want to spoil it, but it is truly a really beautiful and heart-wrenching series. And with all of these, when I think of the stories like The Hate U Give, The Way When You See Us, and Freedom Writers, and The Maid, and so many others, I realize that social work isn't just about individual change. It's about hope, resilience, and fighting for the better of the world. That's what kind of social worker I want to be. And I want to be able to inspire people. I want to be able to help others get back on their feet. And it might be hard. I might hear a lot of my family members saying that it's such a harder field. I don't know how you would do it. I couldn't do it. It'd be da da da. But I see it as a beautiful and strong thing. And when I look at my professors, when I look at people who are already in the social worker field, it's just truly inspiring that they want to help others and they don't just want anything else out of it. They just want to be able to put people back on their feet, give people homes, give people safe space. Well, thank you for listening to my reflection. I hope you enjoyed it.